Happy Wednesday out there, Team 42. It's your skipper here at Darius to present our macro minute for Wednesday, July 31st, 2024. As always, we'll start with the executive summary from today's leadoff morning note. If you would like to review the analysis supporting these conclusions, as well as what specific changes you need to make in your portfolio to stay on the right side of market risk, you need to be a client of 42 Macro. So today's key macro questions are, will the issuance composition of Part 2 of the Q3 QRA extend the positive signaling embedded in Part 1? Will BLJ policy normalization put a floor under the Japanese yen? And if so, what are the implications for global liquidity? Will the Fed push back on market rate cut expectations, which are currently back to being out of sync with the dot plot? How long will the labor hoarding phenomenon persist in the U.S. economy? And did the U.S. government kick save the AI theme? Lots of stuff going on today and this week, as we talked about on Monday. So our answers here. Part two of the Q3 QRA was less positive for asset markets in Part 1. The U.S. Treasury's net financing policy is getting less hawkish at the margins, but the fiscal impulse remains decidedly negative, and our Janet 1 softer inflation theme remains intact, albeit with lower conviction. Our BOJ policy normalization is bullish for the yen and supportive of the medium-term outlook for global liquidity via the cross-border financing channel. Without a fresh dot plot, the Fed is unlikely to push back on market rate cut expectations today. The labor hoarding phenomenon is likely to persist at least until the corporate profit cycle inflects from its current cyclical upturn into a cyclical downturn. Extended valuations leave no margin of safety for stocks exposed to the AI theme. We believe the Biden administration backed off on the most hawkish implementation of its new foreign direct product rule restrictions as a show of support for Kamala Harris. Transitioning to our 42 macro dashboard and wrapping up with a question from our community as always. This one's regarding our fourth turning analysis. It says, recently joined member here. Thanks for joining us. In one video, Darius mentioned the fourth turning report. Can anyone help with the link to that, please? So just for those of you who are aware, every month in our monthly macro scouting report, and our August one will be out Friday afternoon. Every month in the appendix section of our monthly macro scouting report, we update our fourth turning investing during a fourth turning regime analysis. For those of you who are not familiar with the fourth turning, use your Google or use your AI. We'll assume with that prior knowledge. But since for the past year or so, we've been helping investors navigate this fourth turning with hard-hitting empirical studies of what is likely to transpire in the economy from the perspective of growth, from the perspective of inflation, from the perspective of all the critical economic variables that we are all tracking on a daily, weekly, monthly basis here. And then we overlay that with what investors are likely to experience from a political and policy perspective, ultimately settling on what we're likely to anticipate from an asset market performance perspective. So it's a really deep dive presentation. I want to say it's about 30 or 40 slides in the appendix of every monthly macro scouting report. And obviously we walk through each slide in webcast format. So definitely go check that out. If you have not reviewed that, I think you are being committing investing malpractice if you are someone operating in capital markets today without that investing during a fourth turning regime roadmap. So definitely make sure you make time to review that. You don't have to review it every month. Obviously, the analysis is going to change on a monthly basis, but we do update the charts with the data that are recorded throughout the month. So just be aware of that. So we'll wrap it up there. Darius Dell presenting our macro minute for Wednesday, July 31st, 2024. Everyone have a wonderful day out there. Best of luck. We'll catch you back here tomorrow. Cheers.